everyone, this is Katie from New Vision Counseling and Consulting. If you haven't already heard, this month at New Vision, we are going to be talking all about casting visions. And so this doesn't mean having visions in your sleep or anything like that. We're talking about being intentional and creating a vision for your family, for your marriage, for your kids, for your work, just for all aspects of life, being really intentional and driven and motivated to look for what God has for you in 2019. And so instead of resolutions or things that are fleeting, that's what we're going to be focusing on at New Vision this month in January. So today we are going to be talking about 3 ways to create a vision statement for your kids in regards to relationships. So relationships are extremely important, and they're something that we know how to do and that create meaning in life, but sometimes we just kind of let relationships happen. We're not intentional about what we want for relationships. We see that all the time in marriage. We see that in friendships. We see that in work relationships, that it's not until something goes wrong that we realize, oh man, we need help to work on this relationship. And so with kids, relationships are equally as important. And kids often learn by what they see. And so if parents aren't intentional about how to help their kids create their own vision statements and create their own intentionality for relationships, then they just kind of end up floundering, like our marriages or any other relationship when we don't work on them. And so today we're going to learn about 3 ways to create a vision statement for relationships with your kids. The first way is to keep those vision statements kid-friendly. And today we're going to be using the acronym KID. So it's really easy to remember. So the K in the KID acronym means kid-friendly. So for those vision statements, you probably shouldn't have a lot of big words or things that your kids don't understand. It should be something like an anthem that you and your kids can chant over and over again. Like, in the Smith house, we believe in being nice to people and always trying to do our best with relationships. Or in the Johnson family, we seek to put others first and always be safe with relationships, or something along those lines. And I would encourage you to pray about that, or really think about, what do we want our vision statement for our family to be regarding relationships with kids? This can help with things like bullying, or maybe you're just noticing that your kids are being kind of selfish or something like that, but it also helps us go into deeper topics where it's harder to navigate, or when something really confusing happens at school and you're like, oh gosh, how do we deal with this when our kids are only 8 and we've never really talked about how we navigate this particular topic. So keeping it kid-friendly, making it like an anthem, is a great way to start by creating a vision statement for your kids and your family regarding relationships. The second point, and the second letter in the KID acronym, is I, and it's to initiate hard conversations. So as parents, it's easy to think, well, I don't want to talk about sex, or I don't want to talk about the fact that this awful thing is happening, or why there was a shooting at the school, or why there was this or this or this. It's easy to want to avoid those really hard conversations. So instead of avoiding them and letting kids find out about what sex is on the playground, getting ahead of that and creating a vision statement for that can be really powerful and uplifting. So, for example, that might mean your vision statement for your kids and your family in regards to sex is that sex is something that God created to really show the strength of relationships in marriage. So your kids already know that maybe they don't know the ins and outs of sex. They don't know the distortions of sex, but from an early age they know that sex is something that God created and it's good. And so that avoids the shame that sometimes comes when kids are starting to think about sex and maybe they don't want to come to their parents and talk to them about it, so they ask Joey on the playground, and then they get information that's distorted and doesn't honor God. Instead, as parents, when we get ahead of it, then we can learn to really help our kids navigate that and learn about sex in a godly way. And there are so many other topics where if you're really trying to cast a vision statement for your kids and regarding relationships, that can be really meaningful. So the first letter in the KID acronym was keep it kid friendly. So remember we talked about being like an anthem. The second is the I, so initiate hard conversations. Don't avoid those because your kids are going to hear them anyway. So you don't want to avoid them. You want to get ahead of it. And then the third point is the D, and that means do live it out. Like I talked about when we first started this video, we want to really be intentional about living things out because kids learn by what they see. And so if your anthem for your family is something like we're nice to other people or we always use our manners, and then your kids observe that you're not really doing that, or in traffic sometimes daddy does this, or at the grocery store when mommy's stressed she does this, then kids really aren't learning that and they're not seeing how to practically implement that. But if you really are intentional about living it out, then they will. I hope that helped you, and stay tuned at New Vision for some more things about vision and how to really be intentional in 2019 with your family and just with living for the Lord. Thanks, and we'll see you soon.